I came from suburban Houston, all Anglo, middle, upper class. There was just really not a lot of, I just was very narrow in my experience. And so when I came up here, I remember Virginia. I opened the door 3E, 60 Riverside Drive, 3E, I went up there, and it was just like this, open door, your arms open there, and just this long, Virginia had that great posture, just hugged and held me like that. I never, the adults were scary people for me. And they were, mom and dad, it wasn't, my aunts and uncles, something I'm used to. Just something clicked with me there. And from then on, that was 21, 22 until I'm 51 now. I come up here at least once a year in pilgrimage. And she was my mentor. She opened my eyes to so many things. I'll say a couple of anecdotes, but she remember that first trip when I was here on 78th Street, okay, and walking up, and she would point out the different architecture, all the brownstones, and for y'all that's nothing, but for me, it was like, look at the Dutch architecture here, she opened my eyes to art, to form, to space. Houston was, just like suburban houses, and I just, little by little, on each trip, my experience broadened. I'll also remember the times that we would walk up and down Broadway, and Virginia would hold my hand. She would say, "Eric, let's not talk for the next 4 blocks, 5 minutes." She would hold my hand, and I was just like, oh, it was just, I didn't fill the space with something talking, but she taught me the intimacy of silence and just the growth of a relationship. And I never had that. Certainly didn't get it. I'm not disrespecting my parents. I didn't learn that from them, and maybe I really wasn't open to it. She taught me how to be open to intimacy like that. It was beautiful. And today I do that with my own children. I have a 14-year-old boy, Miguel. Now make sure that we have silent time now at the dinner table, or just walking. I point out when I bring Miguel and Gabriela to New York, I point out the same architecture. There's a Dutch house. There's a Dutch church. I love that church right there on West End in 77. There's something about it that she would stand in front of it and point out the details and this and that. There was something magical in that for me. I never had an adult sit there and just explain something to me. And I said, wow, that's what mentorship is for me. I'm a school teacher, so I do that now with my kids, put stuff up on the screen and explain detail like I want it. I want them to feel like I felt. Virginia, at those critical years, I was 21 and 22, I came up here and she sat me down and she told me about her trip in 1963 with Naomi, backpacked around Europe. I go, wow, what kind of, I never would have entered, I was in rapt attention. She told me about going to the Middle East and this and that. And, suburban Houston just stayed right there. Your experience. That's who I was. And make a long story short, about 7 months later, I had $1,300 saved up. I got a one-way ticket on People's Express. And ended up in Brussels, Belgium, all by myself. And went all around Europe. It did that, and it was like she helped me find myself, helped me experience something different than that from where I came from. And since then, I've been traveled all over, lived all over, and I'll close up by saying I just attribute a lot of I'm a teacher, school teacher, and I love what I do, and I'm a father, I love being a father. I attribute almost everything I know, a lot of it, to her guidance, her showing me to open my eyes and not judge, but to question, to question myself and look into the mirror, do some process, deepening process, question myself, and embrace the differentness of people. And I can go on and on and on, but just finish up and say, what she passed to me, I passed to my children. And I see reflected in my brother. My brother is like a mentor too. We had the same experience, but it's just my kids, I pass on to my kids. I teach immigrant students, I teach to them to open their eyes to America. So I love Virginia. I really felt love first time with her. And I'm just so overwhelmed by everyone coming out. And I could talk, really could, I could talk hours, I'm sure other people could, but there's more, and I just thank you for coming and seeing me.
Thanks, Gary.
Hi, everybody. I'm Patty. My dad is Virginia's sister, Johnny and Garrett, and my brothers. I don't have anything prepared. I'm going Virginia style, which is zero preparedness, and just hoping that I can say something that makes good sense. First of all, thank you all for being here. It's overwhelming to see so many faces that I know and that I don't know, but just to know that my aunt, again, has so many different friends from so many different worlds. It just shows who she was. I don't think I need to paint the picture, but we were not the Cleaver family. We had a very interesting upbringing, and not to sound redundant, but when I was 19, I came up and stayed and I didn't stay out all night, but at that time in my life, I, like my brothers, was very lost. It was a confusing time. It was a painful time. I just was a ball of confusion. And I used to wear my sunglasses a lot, like to go to lunch or breakfast or dinner. I would wear my sunglasses. Not because I thought it was cool, but because I had an immense amount of shame as a young girl. And when I came that time at 19, first of all, when I would eat with my aunt, she was like, let's take the glasses off. Let's just try to take the glasses off for a meal. And that felt strange, but I'm trying to get to know this woman, not just as an aunt, but like as, woman to woman. So leap of faith, the glasses came off. I have this very bittersweet memory. When we started talking after dinner one evening, Virginia had this really huge mirror in her apartment, and she would dance in front of it and do whatever else she did in front of the mirror. She loved to look at herself in the mirror. And she took my hand and she walked me in front of the mirror, and that was painful for me. And she said, because I had a lot of body issues, and she said, I want you, so embarrassing in front of everybody, but it was like, she wanted me to take off my shirt, take off my pants, keep everything on, but she said that what I saw was truly who I was, in a sense. My physical sense was not what my mind told me I was, which was pitiful and ugly, and most of all, unworthy. I didn't have a sense of value. And after I got to put my clothes back on really quickly, thank goodness, my aunt shared with me what it was like for her at my age. And the stories, my stories and her stories, just paralleled just so closely. And to think that there was somebody else who shared my craziness and my feelings of loss, that was just like groundbreaking. I immediately felt a kindred spirit with this woman, and slowly over time, I didn't see her a ton, not like Johnny did, but any conversations, I was drinking her in. Anytime I would see her and visit with her, it was just, I couldn't satiate this thirst for really learning about me, because it was through her and her life experiences. She took me to a yoga class one time, and she was all serious about it, and this has been around, her, and and I fell asleep in the yoga class, and she was offended. It like really offended her, like she was trying to share something else about her, but on a, that's silly. But I just want to convey that my aunt was an affirmer. She taught me how to touch people and hold on and feel safely, that it's okay to show your love and demonstrate your love through just holding hands. And that's what my brothers and I and my cousins and I, we see each other and we're like hanging on to each other. And that is from Virginia. There's so many gifts. There's so many gifts from Virginia. But please just know that for this generation of cousins, I'm going to speak for y'all, I'm sorry, but she was a pioneer for our new lives that we claimed. Okay, I speak for me, so I know my brother's like, you speak for you, I speak for me. She helped pave the way for me to be able to have the life that I'm evolving, the woman I'm evolving into, and this functional life I now have. I attribute that to my aunt. Who gets to say that? How many people get to say that I had an aunt or a person who really opened my eyes? And maybe a lot of people can't. I just, at that time, had nobody like that in my life. And really to this day, the world feels strange. It feels strange without her. Anyway, thank y'all again for being here. Thank you for supporting her and being in her lives. And just know, one other side note, another gift that she gave us is Michael. Yes. Michael is embedded in this family. We're not letting him go. Anyway, thank you all again.
Okay, so I wrote it down because I know myself. Thank you, Virginia. I know myself, and I know this is going to be really hard. So, so the first time, my first memory is this. I was about 4 years old, and I was in Alaska. She flew from New York to Alaska. Side note, everybody knows my Virginia. That was a tough one back then. To meet me, and she was this larger-than-life lady with a suitcase full of beaded necklaces, sparkly gifts, and this boyfriend with this banjo. For people who've known her a long time, you know what I'm talking about. And I have vague memories of feeling kind of overwhelmed and confused, but excited. And I was like, why does this woman love me so much, and why is she dancing? I didn't know she dancing until I was 4 years old. And so my first trip to New York, we were standing on a corner, and I got stung by a bee, and I started crying, and she just started cursing at this bee. I won't curse in here, but she was like, this bee, that tough bee, and she was why is she so upset about this bee? And then I remember one day she just did this stance, and she was like, climb. And I was like, what? She said climb, and so she used to, for those of you who don't know, she used to use her long, gorgeous limbs as tree limbs and say climb. And I was like, she's crazy, like I can't do it. She said stop arguing and start climbing. Right? So, I don't know if you guys know this, I was probably the mouthiest of all the nieces and nephews, and I was the one who refused to come live with her. Of course, she tried to get me to a million times, but I didn't. Then I remember one day sitting in her apartment, and she pulled out a piece of paper and said, "Draw this face. Can you draw this face?" And I was like, "Have you seen my coloring book? I can't even stay in the lines." And she was like, "It doesn't matter. Just draw it." And then as a teenager, I arrived at her apartment, and it's funny because my cousins are all talking about when they got there, how she had open arms and just so welcoming. She had balloons on the door as a teenager. I was like, really? Like, is she so cool? She had balloons on the door and she didn't care. She wanted to celebrate that I was coming. So of course, like many of us, kind of growing and learning, went through trying times, and I remember I had to make this phone call, and I was so afraid of her response, but she didn't care. She just didn't touch. She just worked through anything we brought her. Anything. So anyway, I was just trying to think of like, why are these moments so important to me? And they're just so vivid. And so, I'm sorry I can't look at anybody right now. You'd be like, look at the audience. But I figured it out. So I have 3 children. Probably many of you have heard about them. She loved all of her children like no other loves. And I was like, oh, well, my 14-year-old doesn't like it when I dance, and he's embarrassed. And I was, so I'm like, how does it all come together? And it's like, I dance with my children, and I'm a total embarrassment to them. My teenager thinks I'm so embarrassing. I've learned to defend my loved ones against kind of the bumblebees of life that sting us. Climbing the tree was a lesson of just fearlessness and confidence, and I could do anything. She always said that to all of us. She wanted us to color outside of the lines. It didn't matter what we drew or how we colored. And we all love unconditionally. So just to kind of end this, one of my favorite kind of conversations with her that I remember was I sent her a Mother's Day card one year. Because we had recently had a conversation about kind of her decision not to be a mom. So I sent her a Mother's Day card. And she called and she was so appreciative. And I just hope she knows that she brought us everything a mother would bring to their children.
As you can see, Virginia and I were together for 20 years, and not only did I have her, but the incredible family that I inherited at the same time. And I see a lot more of her family than my immediate family in California. Of course, thank you all for being here to celebrate the life of this woman. George Burns' best friend was Jack Benny. After Jack Benny died, they asked him how was he getting along without his best friend. And he said, I cried and I cried and I cried, and then I stopped. Shortly after that, his beloved Gracie died, and they asked George Burns again, how can you go through life by losing the 2 closest people to you in one time? And he said, I cried, and I cried, and then I stopped. That's where I am right now in the healing process. I've stopped crying, but she hasn't left. She's here, and here. After her first stroke nearly 6 years ago, I saw courage. I saw unbelievable courage in her face, this inner strength, her will to live and her will to come back and to take care of herself and to regain her life. She, at the very end, still does more exercise than I ever did. She worked so hard, many nights I would just wake up and the light would be on and she would be walking in the hallway or she'd be walking up the dance bar. She promised by the end of the year that she would be able to walk. She had gone through stages from the wheelchair to the walker and then walking just on people's arms. "20 years ago, we met in the Catskills. I was there for a job, for a family reunion, and she was there with her beloved Sukasa crowd. Someone said to her, there was a new tall man here. And then somebody told me, wow, there was a tall woman here. They told us that each of us would be perfect for each other. How did they know? But 20 years later, they were completely right. She lived a life that she designed for herself. She was her own boss. She created work that nobody had been doing as a therapist, as a body language expert, and as a therapist for people recovering from sports injuries. She totally loved her work. She loved her friends. She loved teaching. She loved dancing. And she just gave her time freely to anybody that wanted it. She was a mentor to so many people that just needed somebody to talk to. And her great love was the Laban Institute, for which she was president. And she was able to go between many different worlds. And the corporate world she could do. And in that respect, we were completely different. I always planned everything. She never planned anything. She would say that she had a talk to give a chase for 3 hours. And I could have never done this. I would say, aren't you going to prepare for it? She said, I've been thinking about it for the last day or two. And I'm the person who has to write everything down. She would say, well, I'll practice it on the subway. And then I would say, well, I hope you get the local instead of so you need a little more time. One of her favorite sayings in the last 3 years was that she was genetically programmed to be happy. And it was true. I saw this inner strength in her. She never gave up. It was her strength that gave me strength to take care of her for all those years. We had a personal mantra. I feel safe, secure, and protected because my protector protects me. That was my role. It allowed her to devote all her healing where she didn't have to worry about anything. Her job was to get well, and I felt that it was my job to take care of her. Her life will never be forgotten by any of us here today who knew the joyfulness of her spirit. She believed in the 7 wonders of the world. For her, they were not places, things, or objects. Her wonders of the world were to see, to feel, to touch, to taste, to smell, to hear, and her favorite one was to love. I feel grateful to have been loved by her. She was spiritual, as you heard. She did meditation. In the Hindu religion, they say at the end of your life, when you get to the gate to be judged, that you're asked 2 questions. One of the questions is, did you find happiness in your life? And the other was, did you bring happiness to others? her answer would have been unconditionally yes. She was new age, old age, and cutting edge. Another quote that we both loved is, "There is a land of the living and a land of the dead, and the bridge is love." And that's what she believed. I was her life, and she was my life, and now I miss our life. I wish to thank a few people who made all this possible today. The wonderful Amy, who graciously gave her time to play the harp. To Charles and Julia, who made this all possible, with the church getting us the exact day that we wanted and the time that we wanted. And especially to all her nieces and nephews who traveled here from all over. And it's a tribute to Virginia, how much they loved her. Thank you all. And now we're going to hear from two of her friends. Excuse me, Raymond first. Another piece.
Yes, sorry. Okay. I'm not shy, I have bossy cousins, so because Patty told me to come up here. My name is Vicki, and I'm one of the nieces of Virginia, and I'm grateful. You guys was just, I'm blown away. Thank you everybody for being here. And it is amazing what a tribute. Like, if I didn't hear anything else, just the bodies being here is an affirmation, it's a testimony to how many lives she's touched. To see our youngest cousin sit here and talk about how evolved she became and comfortable in her own skin with her own children. Like, I'll never forget that, you know, and all of you guys saying what you said. And I showed up, and I like, you're right, we're not from the Cleaver family for sure. I'm sure it's the name of the family. And so anyway, just real quick, because I had another chore that I was told to do later, but I showed up here from upstate New York when I was 12, and mine was a little different because it was a little earlier in life. I had the same experience. I was brought in front of this mirror, and this lady was in front of me doing all this and holding my hands and helping me get comfortable with myself, and I didn't know what we were doing, and she just sensed that I was talkative. I did well in sports. I just had this, didn't know until you really said it, the body issue as well, and I was very uncomfortable with that. And then I just said, you know, can we just stay a little bit, almost like a little conservative? And if anybody knows Virginia, this story won't shock you. She's like, sure. She goes, but first we're going to go for a walk. And I'm like, okay. And then she put on the most outlandish outfit I've ever seen, like mustard yellow top with some polka dot pants. And I'm like, you're not going out like that. She's going, we're going to go power walking. And I go, oh my God. So I'm following Daddy Longlegs around the streets of New York. And I'm not sure, but you guys know Virginia. And then she started doing these things, you know, it was a lot about breathing. And then she made me start doing these, anybody have done these jaw exercises. I'm like, you have to do this. She's like, you need to do them. I'm going to cause a scene and you're going to keep walking and doing them. I'm like, while you're wearing the hot mustard shirt, she's like, Victoria, listen to me. I'm like, yes, okay. Because I feared her, you know, but I loved her. But it was all very loving, you know. She made me laugh. She just got me to come way out of my comfort zone. You know, you talk about empowerment. You know, I absolutely believe that I'm the person today able to do some things I do because my Aunt Virginia told me that you're capable. You said the word design your life, and you know, it's an affirmation I say daily. Coach the people that I do like life coaching with is that we do design our life. We don't have to be a victim. And Virginia told us we could break the mold, and the past didn't matter other than the fact that it made us who we are. You know, if you need to grieve some things, grieve them, let them go, but then get excited like the life is your empty palette, and just design and go forward. And you know, and the other memory I had was after that long walk, we came back, and I was really hungry. I was so excited visiting Auntie for the first time, and then she takes me to this countertop, and I'm thinking we're going to get all this great grub and all that, and then she puts like 3 jars of seeds in front of me. And I'm like, you know, where's the bread and the rice? And she goes, and then she just started teaching me the importance of nuts and seeds and macrobiotic diets, and I'm like, I'm like, I'm 12. I'm like, I'm thinking we're gonna have KFC and I'm gonna get some real good grub. So we had lots of seeds. There might have been one little piece of chicken and a couple little slices of cheese, but it was fun. I'm a big fan of nuts and seeds today. And I went to college wanting to be a doctor or biochemistry major, but at the same time I always told her, I said, I love people and I'm athletic. Is there anything that melds? And she's like, funny you should say that. And she was in the earlier stages of putting together her whole dance therapy movement. And because I didn't want to be pigeonholed in one thing, I didn't want to be a physical therapist just doing the rope movement. I didn't know if I wanted to be a shrink because Lord knows, I mean, if people came in looking at my background, I don't know how I would process that. I need somebody incredible like you at home still really diffuse. So, you know, she kind of helped me, you know, I also had an issue with the traditional medicine, and I finished my 4 years, did an adjunct year at Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, wondering why people are getting sick a lot. And she would say, do you remember our nuts and seeds talk? And then she talked to me about, we evolved to spirulina, and then we had to talk about preventive disease, and she really turned me on to an Eastern philosophy way of thinking, which is really about getting the body in its natural homeostasis and that it can stave off disease. And it was really kind of neat because through the years we still had to do the walks and she still would wear these random outfits and that was fun, you know what I mean? And we had to do the jaw movement. Has anybody here had to do the jaw movement with her? Right? So you learn real quick that you just have to forget what you look like because that doesn't matter. And then she would disappear, and as it was brought up last night, all of a sudden you'd be like, where is she? As you're walking, she's like, keep walking, I'm behind you. And then she'd grab your head and start pulling, you know, taking the pressure off your spine. So now you're like a body cast when you're walking with her with the outlandish outfit on. And, you know, working up an appetite to go to nuts and seeds later. But it was, but you know, she taught me a lot and cried and grieved. I was very interested to see how my other cousins, I'm grateful for this, I'm sorry, it's the reason why we're all together. But there is a silver lining, and you couldn't get rid of us if you wanted, Mike. You are family, and we're grateful that you brought so much grace, because we know, we say to read women, we can be a little bit of a handful, and you know, pretty much the same for that. So, yeah, I'm grateful for that. She set me on a course of how I could use that physicality and just help empower people, and didn't do the traditional medicine and try to help people on the other end stay healthy, and how that transcended anyway, because your physical is connected to your emotional, and she helped me bridge that. So it was never a shock to me that she evolved into be a president and all over the place, you know, internationally ranked race walker and the dance therapy movement and just lots of great things. So I am grateful for my experiences, and there were more. And I remember my first trip when it might have been 12 or 13, that I earned her confidence to go 2 blocks up and 2 blocks over. I just wanted to go to the bagel shop somewhere alone. And she was very, you know, she taught us to be vigilant and do what we do, but she trusted me. And I just remember, I think my mom gave her a land as the phone, what do you call that? I can remember the phone, I hear like, you let Victoria do what? She's like, she walked 2 blocks up and 2 blocks over, she got bagel, she came back, she was fine. She's like, oh, remind me not to tell your mother anything again. I'm like, okay, you know, I want to be trusted to do that. So that made you feel good, that you could feel that somebody trusted you for those things. So I am grateful, and I'll continue to do what I can to carry the torch and learn from my other cousins. And yes, you were the sassy one. You're the beautiful redhead, and she was sassy as anything as a kid, and now to see her evolve into like a great young woman and a great mother, and just clearly loves her children. And it's really great to see that, Christina, and to know that you give a lot of that credit to Empty Virginia. I'm proud of you. If it's okay to give you a spotlight for a minute, and all you guys who just help me stuff. So anyway, I thought, you know, this would not be, I need to do one, you know, we need to do this at public speaking as they do this sometimes. It's a quickie little break and then you go on to your next speaker. So I'm going to do one little thing here, and we're going to, if you follow me, because to know Virginia, and yes, I'm in the fitness field, so it won't surprise you, but can you guys stand up for a moment? Okay. Does anybody here remember the fact that with Virginia everything was about breathing? And
yes.
Anybody here remember her talking about the big balloon in the lower belly? Okay. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to put our hands up together first. Okay, we're going to take a big deep breath through our nose. And I want you to picture a big balloon in your gut, right? She always said when we're anxious, we take short breaths from our chest. Let's all just take one deep one, and she put your hand on her belly. And if you didn't fill that one first, right, Michael, then you couldn't gradually move up to the other one. So in, and we'll exhale to the mouth. And then let's everybody to your right, whichever way that is. Stretch to your right. Here we go. Auntie, we're still practicing. She told me, she goes, your mind's not right if we don't take care of the physical first, because every time a lot of questions, it was let's stretch, let's breathe, let's do power walk, and then we'll talk. So one more breath in, through the belly. Release, and then stretch to the right. Awesome. You're the right, you're the left. I'm sorry. That's a good trick, right? Okay, Auntie, that was for you. A little bit of stretching and breathing. So guys, thank you. Thank you everybody for being here. And I think it's Ray, my brother Raymond.
What a room. Thank you all for being here. Raymond, Vicky's little brother. My mom was sisters with Virginia. They didn't have the greatest relationship. And it was tough because I loved them both so much. That from a very young age, my mother, as much as she fought with her sister, knew to literally give us to Virginia, like in that spiritual way. Because where we came from was so conservative, so just normal, I guess, America. But she knew we were more, like, you know? I can't, from my heart, she was my Auntie Mae. If this references anything, she just gave us the world, and that's just it. And no hate on moms who didn't, because they couldn't, you know? She took us abroad, and the experience, I never could have that, you know? I never could have been where I am now without that experience of being able to know what it's like to. There's a larger world out there. There's more. There's not just that day-to-day grind that we want our father support our family on. It's a good, honest energy, but there's so much more. And she gave them to us just so freely. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Ray.
Whatever I'm going to say is so moved, so formed now, and affected by my family. And Michael. And I see Virginia in everybody. And I see everybody in Virginia. What a family. And when I was writing this, I kept writing her children. And then I'd have to correct that and say her nieces and nephews. But I think it's her children. I know you have other mothers and fathers, but I think in the biggest sense, it's her children, and that's how she felt. And I will go on in the vein I was going to go on, but this feels like it's so big. I'll say that I'm the oldest friend. I have some longitudinal. I was old enough to know when she was young. So through the ups and downs and ins and outs of 50 years, I have a kaleidoscopic images of my fabulous friend, Virginia Reed. First image, age 22, first day of work at the welfare office. Being seated across from civil servant, Miss Jenny Reed. Tall, skinny, proper, a very well thought of caseworker. Contrary to appearance, fact was, contrary to appearance, fact was, Miss Reed had just completed 9 months of travel, solo, hitchhiking across the Autobahn all over Europe. And she was ready to go again. In the next 6 months of talk, Virginia orchestrated and developed a new travel plan, and I bravely followed her to Syria, Egypt, Jordan, Iraq. One image that you will all recognize as Virginia is an Egypt story, which came after we got thrown out of Egypt. We were followed by the secret police, and our passports were held, which came after running from Lebanon to Egypt back to Greece, being thought to be prostitutes at one point. I wasn't sure I was going to say this, but so, the one story I was going to tell is that as we attracted attention in a village in Egypt, 2 mutton Jeff females alone in a little village near the pyramids, many children attacked, even threw stones at us and ran after us. And then Virginia took the lead and started a march. The footwork and rhythms were varied, and we were even tooting. Through the village, a professor watching from his window ran out to find out who this marvelous woman is. In another tenor altogether, there was 30 years of again sitting across from Virginia for Saturday breakfast week after week. We debriefed, advised, she doctored, we argued. Good thing about our friendship. Traveling through life in a way that seemed it would be there always. That's the heart. Her deep meaning was always Armgard, Laban, and her children. All deep wells of gratification. And I can attest to the wonderful fact that after Michael moved in with Virginia, even after her stroke, she would say time after time and week after week, I can't believe this, but this is the happiest I have ever been in my whole life. And knowing that she had so much happiness, well, it makes me sad and happy. She had a wonderful point in her life to live, but she had had wonderful years and could say how many of us can. This is the happiest time of my life. And I think I can let her go. I can try to let her go. Don't worry.
I've come out of this wanting so much to have dinner as my aunt and Michael as my whatever. Anyway, just my one claim to fame is I think I almost could keep up with Virginia in aerobic walking. I was like almost like a partner in that. So, okay, I'm going to read this introduction, which is so unlike Virginia, who could somehow be able to pull a complete, concise, meaningful, and beautiful lecture from the air, just however she did it. But I'm so lucky to have had many years of close friendship with Virginia, and over 20 years with Virginia and Michael. And I feel privileged and touched to be part of this tribute to my friend. First, I'm going to read a passage in a book written by Sue Lolan Erickson, who had been a friend of Virginia's. And the book is In the Shadow of Fame. It was about Sue's growing up as a daughter of Eric Erickson. And there's a tribute to Virginia Virginia in this. Okay. It was in a sociology course at the New School for Social Research that I made a new and life-altering friend by the name of Virginia Reed. Our conversations were different from any I had. This is all what's been said. It's sort of like an echo of what you've all said. Our conversations were different from any I had ever had in my life. Virginia had struggled with difficult emotional issues of her own and had been helped enormously by psychotherapy. She talked openly and honestly about her feelings and experiences in a way that dazzled me from the start. And unaccustomed as I was to such candid self-revelation, I found it remarkably easy to tell her what I had never told anyone before, that I was deeply unhappy. Her empathy and optimism were a revelation to me. Virginia was about to end her work with an analyst who had helped her a great deal, and she suggested I meet with him. Because of the way she talked about herself and her therapy, I knew immediately that whatever had helped her to become who she was, that was what I wanted for myself. That was from Sue, who had wanted to be here, but couldn't make it. But okay, now I'm just going to read 2 short poems, and the reason that I'm going to read them is, first of all, Virginia loved these 2 poems. Second of all, watching DVDs with Virginia and Michael has been a special part of my week for at least 4 years, and will have a special place in my memory. In both poems, I find different aspects of Virginia that I value so much. And the first one, because of the alliteration in the beginning of this poem by E. Cummings, that is part of Virginia's intense program of exercise that she and Michael had mapped out for Virginia's return from the stroke, which worked. Okay. Maggie and Millie and Molly and May went down to the beach to play one day, and Maggie discovered a shell that sang so sweetly she couldn't remember her troubles. And Millie befriended a stranded star whose rays sparkling lightning fingers were. And Molly was chased by a horrible thing which raced sideways while blowing bubbles. And May came home with a smooth round stone as small as a world and as large as a lone. For whatever we lose, like a you or me, it's always ourselves we find in the sea. This is another one. Every time I read this poem by Rilke, I kind of feel that Rilke wrote it just for Virginia, and it's called Initiation. Whoever you are, go out into the evening, leaving your room of which you know each bit. Your house is the last before the infinite, whoever you are. Then, with your eyes that wearily lift themselves from the worn-out doorstone, slowly you raise a shadowy black tree and fix it on the sky, slender, alone. And you have made the world, and it shall grow and ripen as a word, unspoken still. When you have grasped its meaning with your will, then tenderly your eyes will let it go. That's my image of Virginia, a tall, slender, magnificent tree, and I hope I leave that with you.